So here I am at Chateau Petrus, where I will try the 2009, which has gotten a lot of good press. So I'm here with Olivier Berrouet, who is, we're at Petrus, tasting the 2009 vintage. Olivier, tell me about 2009 and your role as well, because only recently have you started directing things here, haven't you?
Yes, I arrived the 1st January of 2008, and so 09 is my real first vintage here, but I'm still working with the advice of my father, Jean-Claude, and Christian Wax, who's still involved as a consultant in the vineyard, so I'm taking their experience every day to move forward. But this year we were very lucky with the vintage 09, with the weather condition were almost perfect, with a lot of sunshine, good temperature but not too high, and a cold night, so that really helps to have a very slow maturation process and to get a very good ripeness of the tannin without an excess of sugar and a lack of acidity in our grapes.
What about levels of alcohol? Are they a little higher than normal?
It's a little bit higher than normal.
What does that mean?
It's 14.2.
14.2, wow, okay. And in terms of the yields, do you have more Petrus than average in 2009, or about the average?
We are at the global production in Petrus this year is 40 hectoliters per hectare.
Right.
So that is a global production.
Right. So in terms of bottles, how many do you think you'll be making in 2009?
Around 35,000 bottles.
Which is pretty much the average?
That is the average production of Petrus in the last 10 years.
Okay. Was there a challenge in 2009? I mean, was it all easy, or was there a challenge? Didn't it rain a little bit in mid-September?
It rains, but we harvested the great blocks of Merlot on clay at the start of October, so it didn't disturb us, and the rain was a storm, so most of the water
blew off, ran through
at the top of the soil, and just a few came inside the soil.
Okay.
Because with the clay we had in Petrus, when it started to rain, the 10 first centimeters became waterproof, and all the excess of water ran off at the top of the clay. So it was floating, but a few water came inside the soil.
In terms of style, you've always made a wine that you picked relatively early to retain freshness. Was that also the case in 2009? Did you see neighbors picking later than you, for example?
No, in 2009, maybe in case of the clay, we had to harvest our Merlot after our friend on the plate of Pomerol. So this year for Petrus, we harvested a little bit later than the other Merlot on the plate.
Interesting, because it was
maybe it's the way the clay working in 2009. It helps to decrease the speed of the maturity. So we had a very slow maturity this year on our clay, so that's why we had to wait a little bit more than the gravelly soil right next to us.
What would you compare this vintage to? I mean, did you talk to your father about that? He's got so much experience. Did he say, like, oh, this reminds me of a certain year, and why?
Yes. For us, it is very hard to compare the 09 to one vintage, but for us it's more like the combination of two vintage. For us, the 09 vintage, it has a very exotic taste, flavor on one side, but also it has a very classic structure at the same point. And for us, it can be a combination of 89-90, for example, or a combination of 70-71.
Okay.
It can be, you see the both sides of those two great vintage, like 90, very exotic, very full body, and the 89 with a very, very classic structure.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.